A lot of good
Anyway,
football.
we digress from player news. Rotoworld.com, player news, Connor Rogers. Your job is to keep us on track, and you've done a poor job.
That's right. Hey, listen,
So
long
far.
weekend for everybody. For all your Roto-World player news, go to NBCSports.com. And you heard the intro of the show, C.J. Stroud with a monster day. Completed 30 of his 42 passes for 470 yards
That's a
and
lot.
5 touchdowns. You guessed it, Matthew. C.J. Stroud finishes the weekend and goes into Monday Night Football as the QB1 in fantasy right now with over 41 points.
He made the love list this week. We liked him quite a bit. I had him as a top 10 play going into the week. Even I, Barry Stramus, did not see this coming.
That's not great.
I'm workshopping it.
Yeah.
I'm still
Keep doing that.
workshopping.
Put it back in the shop. It's not ready.
Maybe lock the doors and close for the holidays.
Wow. But anyway, yeah. So we, listen, C.J. Stroud. Look. Here's the thing about it. This is something that was going on Twitter. So you hate to get somebody to catch strays, but the truth of the matter is that C.J. Stroud, just 8 games into his NFL career, whatever it is, now has more career touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
That was
Poor
just,
Kenny.
Poor Kenny.
He's probably
5 and
chasing
3.
Zach Wilson.
Kenny's
at
5
this
and
point, I would
3.
think.
Probably has more than Zach Wilson. You're
chasing him
absolutely
at
right.
least.
Yeah, they're close. He had more fantasy points in Week 9 than his previous 3 games combined. You mentioned the number 1. It's an NFL rookie record for passing yards in a game. And I think what's most impressive to me is the style of throws. You can talk about this better than I can, but
insane.
these were absolute dimes. These were bullets. This wasn't like BS. Blake Bortles down by 40 points, junk time. This was a win against a good team that has played well.
Blake Bortles catching strays as well.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
just never know who's going to get.
Well, the fact, again,
Yes.
Blake
You're
Bortles
looking at Matt
Blake
Shaw?
Bortles was a top 10 fantasy quarterback for a number of years, and a lot of it was junk time. But this was all done within game script and just every possible throw, short, medium, he was all over the field, Connor.
He's awesome. And what you saw yesterday is really why you see the ceiling of Stroud is Joe Burrow levels, right? That's what you see. Throwing with timing, throwing with accuracy, precision, an elite pocket passer, but he's got enough twitch and athleticism to make plays when he has to in and out of the pocket as well. And the weapons for the Texans have been good with him as well. You see the chemistry, you see the rapport, Jay. Stroud is every bit as legit as they could have hoped for and more at this point. He's looking like the best quarterback in this class and one of the better young quarterbacks in the league at this point.
I think the key thing with Stroud is that there is a huge disparity where when he is kept clean, he's close to the best quarterback in football.
And that was
statistically.
college
He's
for
been
him.
an absolute monster. And I think back as well to the college football playoff semifinal against Georgia last year, where when he was kept clean, he was just absolutely untouchable in terms of the throws that he was making. And in this game as well, he had time, and he said to his offensive lineman, going into that last drive, just give me a bit more time and I will make them pay. And sure enough, he made them pay. And he's got weapons. Tank Dell's magnificent. Nico Collins is just rock steady. And then my man, Dalton Schultz, has risen from the ashes and is now a very viable fantasy tight end.
Since Week 5, he's the 3rd best tight end in fantasy. He's got a 28% target share over that stretch. He's been somebody that they look for quite a bit in the end zone. We've talked about Nico Collins a lot, but one of us has been talking about Tank Dell since the preseason. Go ahead, Stephen, roll the tape. Roll the tape here.
You got to sit with Tank Dell a couple months ago, and he talked about his relationship with C.J. Stroud before they even got to training camp. Take a listen.
This was at the NFLPA rookie premiere.
That's a great guy. That's my guy. Me and CJ, we've been with each other every day since he came to Houston. I've been there. I told him I wanted to play with him. He told me he wanted to play with me. So we just tried to make it happen, and it worked out for us.
I said all preseason. We've played that tape multiple times. Tank Dell is going to be a thing this year. Well, that time is right now. That was September 25th.
Yeah.
And so I'm calling back to September 25th, when on September 25th I was calling back to the preseason. So just very meta here, but I am victory lapping my victory lap, in case you're curious what's going on here.
Well,
that's what I'm actually doing.
You didn't just talk about Tank Dell. Now you talking about Tank
Correct.
Dell. It's like Inception. It's a
Yes.
dream within a dream.
100%.
What's the quote?
What's real or what's not
Do you
real?
want to take a leap of faith or die an old man filled with regret, or just talk about Tank Dell all the time, basically?
I'm going to talk about Tank Dell all the time. Tank Dell is going to be a thing, has been a thing, is currently a thing as well. Somehow still available in 52% of leagues.
Well, he won't.
Like,
Yeah, he shouldn't be
he
anymore.
won't. He won't be anymore. Again, this is legit. It's his third different game this year with 20 more fantasy points. He's had 3 games this year with 7 or more targets, 25.1 fantasy points. When he gets fed, he eats. And the expectation here, now that he's fully back, he's fully healthy, he's going to continue to get a bunch of targets from his buddy, his close pal, his amigo, C.J. Stroud. That was what the clip was him and Tank and CJ talking about the fact that, like, when Tank Dell, who played college ball in Houston, literally like just down the road from where the Texans play their games, like when CJ Stroud got to town, he's just like, let me show you here's the best dry cleaner. Here's the best Chinese food. Like, whatever, here's Houston. Drove them around and they just hung out every day, all day. The other thing that's crazy about Stroud is that the numbers are eye-popping. He threw the ball 42 times. Which is a nice amount, but it's not like one of those, like, he threw it 55 times or something like that. Like, that's 30, he was 30 of 42. You know what I mean? Sometimes you see these big numbers and you're like, yeah, they threw it, he was 30 for 55, 30 of 42. He didn't throw it a ton and he was efficient, but just the big plays were there constantly. And obviously Tank Dell's a big piece of that, as is Nico Collins. I just want to mention real quickly that Noah Brown, very quiet for deeper leagues, now has a 15% target share in 3 of the 4 games he's played this year. I think you've seen Noah Brown's best game of the year. I definitely think he's third on the pecking order of those wide receivers, Nico and Tank Dell. But I do think, again, if you're in a Michael Smith crazy 20-team league, if you're one of those deeper leagues, I do think Noah Brown is kind of interesting here.
I mean, he's 6 for 153 and a touchdown.
Right?
You take out the 75-yarder, and it's still a fantastic game.
Yeah, 100%.
On the other side of this one, in Stroud's monster performance for the Bucs, Rashad White's volume continued. 20 carries, 73 yards. He gets 2 touchdowns. As he always does, he adds in 4 catches for 46 yards. So the volume for Rashad White.
This was one you liked on Fantasy Football pregame.
Yeah, I did. And I do think it is poetic that even in Rashad White's awesome game, still 3.7 yards per carry, because he seems doomed to be around that mark for eternity. But I think Rashad White is legitimately good. He was 16th in PFF grade among running backs coming into this game. I assume that'll probably go up after this. I just think that he just is drawing dead with his line, with the play calling and the lack of creativity. Just last year as well, I couldn't get anything done with Tom Brady as quarterback in terms of efficiency. But he gets the volume, he gets the receptions, which gives you a floor, and he's able to get into the end zone twice.
Would you consider selling high on Rashad White? Here's his upcoming schedule: home to Tennessee, at San Francisco, then at Indianapolis, home to the Panthers. So it's kind of a mixed bag over the next 4 here. But the next 2, in theory, have good run defenses. Although, honestly, Steelers were able to run on Tennessee. It's not the same run defense that it was earlier in the season.
Yeah, I think the thing with him is that coming into this, his previous 2 games, he had 13 receptions. I don't think he's going to be, the Alvin Kamara of a couple of weeks ago where that is going on, and he's probably not going to score 2 touchdowns every week. But the problem with Rashad White is that there's just a lot of scope for him to have games of 13 carries for 39 yards, 2 receptions, and just nothing. So yeah, I probably would sell high given the right offer.
Yeah.
On the flip side, the scarcity of running backs with this volume, week by week.
He gets volumes over the last 3 weeks. He's the 7th best running back in fantasy. He's had at least 4 receptions for 45 yards in all 3 of those games. This is one of the points, Jay, you brought up on Fantasy Football pregame when we were nervous about this matchup here against the Texans. We're like, he's so inefficient, and you're like, yes, but the receiving does keep his floor high. He's more of a floor play than a ceiling play, even though he obviously is coming off this monster game. I think we're sort of both right here, which is that you've seen his best game of the year, and if somebody's offering you a great deal, I wouldn't mind, quote, selling high, but I'm not actively shopping him because I do think there's enough volume there to keep him afloat as a, usable RB2 because of the passing game work.
Minimum of 3 receptions every single game since week 1 for Rashad White.
Over with an NFC thriller, the Cowboys at the Eagles. The Eagles find a way to hold on in this game. Jay, you've talked about, it felt like a couple weeks ago, you're like, this is a big moment for Dak Prescott. And ever since you said that, Dak, for the most part, has played really well. I mean, the Cowboys were in this game in large part because of Dak. 29 of 44, 374 yards, the 3 touchdowns. He also ran 6 times, only 14 yards, but the Cowboys come up short.
I will say that I think Dak Prescott, his past 3 games, he's played at the level of basically the best quarterback in the NFL across those 3 games, and he was magnificent yesterday. The problem with Dak is that there is always a caveat. there is always a caveat with Dak, where even though he plays magnificently, steps out of bounds on the 2-point, takes a sack that he just absolutely cannot take. 1st and 10 from the 11. You've got 4 chances to throw it in the end zone. You cannot take a sack in that spot, and he does. And it's not like the pressure got there immediately either. So that was frustrating as someone who needed the Cowboys to win that game from a financial perspective. But Dak was fantastic to that point, and that is an elite passing offense.
As you guys know, I'm not the biggest Dak fan in the world, but I will tell you that I 100% agree with you. Like, it's so weird. It's super weird. I'm a Commanders fan, so I can't stand the Cowboys, right? Just from a fandom standpoint. But when I do my fantasy and betting analysis, I'm objective. But from a fandom standpoint, like, I was rooting for the Eagles because I do not like the Cowboys, right? My 2 favorite teams are the Commanders and whoever's playing the Cowboys. But I will tell you that after the game, all the like, oh, we took them down, we beat all the Eagles. Like, I'm like, it literally 3 inches, right? I mean, so again, like, Schoonamaker down on they call him down at the 1-yard line on that touchdown, right? And then Dak out of bounds, by like this much on the 2-point conversion. Like, I don't want to say they got lucky because Philadelphia.
It was a coin flip game, and it came up Eagles.
It was a coin flip game, and the Eagles, give the Eagles credit, they made the plays when they needed to win, and they're a very good team as well. But like, I wouldn't say you guys dominated that game. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I don't know what the live money line was, but when Dallas got 1st and 5 on the 6 with 27 seconds left, Cowboys are favored to win that game at that point. You got 4 chances to get it in, and then they have the false start, and then it all burns from that point. Right. But that was a coin flip.
Yeah, it fell apart for them in that moment, but throughout the game, big Jake Ferguson week. He finishes as a tight end 4.
Also on the love list, again, start your tight ends against Philadelphia, especially Ferguson, somebody we talked about a lot on Fantasy Football Pregame. Again, was in the love list as well because he's been getting so much red zone looks. This is not a fluke for Jake Ferguson at all. He is somebody who is his 4th different game this year with multiple red zone targets. He and you look at their upcoming schedule, right? Giants, Carolina, Washington, Seattle. Like, it's an awesome schedule. I mean, Ferguson's he enters Monday Night Football as the 4th best tight end in fantasy. Since week 9, he's had a 23% target share. He is somebody that I think is a borderline top 5 fantasy tight end the rest of the way.
Yep, no, I agree. And Dak was looking for him, except on the 4th down, where he was wide open and he didn't look at him. He looked at Tolbert instead. But clearly, I think there's just something with Dak Prescott, just his style of play, or maybe it's the offense, just seems to lend itself really well to tight ends. The way that he would look for Dalton Schultz, 100%. The way he's now looking for Jake Ferguson. I mean, he's a locked-in starting tight end every week.
CeeDee Lamb stays hot, 3rd straight game with 115-plus receiving yards. We've said it, guys, for this offense to go, it needs to feature CeeDee Lamb. But on the flip side, Tony Pollard just has not had that week,
This is
a
tough one. He's now had single-digit fantasy points in 4 of the past 5, under 70 yards from scrimmage in 4 of the past 5. Week 1, that was the last time Tony Pollard scored a touchdown. Week 1. He's like the Deontay Johnson of running backs. It's unbelievable because this is somebody who does get work in the red zone. Having said that, again, think about the schedule that I just read about Jake Ferguson because Tony Pollard is the same. Giants, Panthers, Washington, Seattle. Like, trade for Tony Pollard. I still believe in his talent here. I get it. Only 15 touches in this game, in a game that was close, but the Eagles are a very good defense. I have to believe he's too talented, and this offense is working too well for Tony Pollard not ultimately to get his.
I agree. And to me, to my eye, Tony Pollard looks fine athletically out there. I thought he was running well yesterday. I thought he was gaining extra yards. I don't understand why this Cowboys offensive line isn't better given the names, but it just seems like there's no space whatsoever. You think back to the meme stuff of the Eagles in week 2 against the Vikings where DeAndre Swift is basically walking through an empty supermarket to get to the end zone. There's none of that for Tony Pollard. It's all tough yards. He seems to grind it out. I think it will change because the talent is too much and the schedule is so welcoming.
I think this is... Again, maybe he's no longer a, quote, locked in, the top 5, top 6 running back that he was drafted to be. Maybe there's a Roto-World magazine cover curse. I don't know. We haven't thought about that.
I forgot about that.
I am glad I didn't choose him as my ride or die. He was on the list. He was pitched to me as being one of my ride or die finalists. But I do think better days are ahead for Tony Pollard, who, again, even in a disappointing week, as we enter Monday Night Football, he's running back 24 in the week. I get it, right? That's not what you drafted him to be. There are 4 teams on a bye. I get it. But I'm just saying it's not like he's a total disaster. It's not like he's useless. He's just, delivering below expectations. I think those start to rise up when I look at the schedule upcoming.
And he did have one called back on illegal formation where, according to the broadcast, the lineman just didn't report himself eligible to
They
ref.
need to change that rule.
It's very annoying.
It's the most insane thing.
Because it's literally like, I think the rule is he literally has to go up
Yes,
to the official and
the
say,
white
like,
hat.
hi, it's me, Matthew.
Literally.
I am eligible. Hello.
So insane.
It's a ridiculous thing in a football
right,
game.
In a football game, like he has to literally go talk to the guy. Like they can't just
Nobody has time for this.
Right. What are we doing? Hello.
Yeah.
I
That
also
needs
don't
to change.
understand.
The defensive pass interference from the one where you just keep doing it over and over again, that needs to change.
Okay. And by the way, am I insane? People were giving me grief
Yes.
on Twitter. Yeah, okay, fine. But am I insane for this specific take? Which is like on the Schoonamaker touchdown where they called it a touchdown initially, and then they called him out. Then they said no, his knee was down. I said I don't understand that. And people were like, what don't you understand? He was down before he got the ball into the end zone. I said, yeah. But I said, in football, for it to be considered a reception, a receiver has to catch the ball and complete a football move. How many times have we seen a guy catch a ball, turn, ball gets knocked out, and they say incomplete? They don't say it's not a fumble, it's incomplete. So my point is that Schoonamaker completing the football move, like it's literally like bang bang, right, in real time, and and he's in the end zone. And so why is that not a touchdown? Because if the idea of a reception is it's catching the ball and completing a football move, why is that not a touchdown? Because once he's completed the football move, he's in the end zone. Another way to describe this is like, hang on, no, I'm not done. I'm dead serious here. So you can here's I don't know if you can see this.
Fall,
Can you see
Matthew.
that? I'm not
Do
going
not
to.
fall.
Don't worry. Pull back here
Be
for
careful,
a second, real
Matthew.
quickly. All right. So you see, this is the line of the stage, right? So pretend this is like the end. This is a sideline of an end zone. And if I catch a ball like this, right, and fall over, that's a touchdown, right? Even though the ball has never actually been inside the end zone,
Correct.
but my feet are both in, and I catch it. So I don't understand that. So that's a touchdown where the ball's never actually in the end zone, right? And
No, I'm with you.
that's what I don't understand the consistency of that logic, and I didn't explain myself super great on Twitter, but or X. But am I
think
crazy
the thing
on this
with
one?
all these catches, it just goes back. You need to just be in a bar and ask everyone, is that a catch? Like Des Bryant against the Packers was a
That
catch.
was a catch. Des caught
Lee
it.
Evans for Baltimore against the Patriots. That's a catch in the end zone.
Correct.
You just know a catch when you see it.
It's only because that particular play got if that play happens on the 20, right? They're not saying oh no, you're down, now it's the 21. But because that play got slowed down from 18 different angles and I think Dallas got screwed, and I just think that rule is inconsistent with the rest of
That's
how
the
they
problem.
call a football
The
game.
inconsistency.
Right.
Was Tyreek Hill's a catch in the Germany game?
Was that backwards though? Did he throw that
Right.
backwards?
Maybe
I
that's
thought
what
it was a
it
lateral.
ends up as.
I don't know what that was.
It was a very strange
It
play.
was very strange.
It hit the
Just
cool factor that
Between
you don't want
that
to call
and
back.
the high knees on the run back,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on.
I'm just saying, in real time, we're all like, that's a touchdown. And it's only because they,
Right.
again, when he completed the football move, the ball was in the end zone. So I don't know.
One more note from this
Dallas,
game.
you got screwed. What can I tell you?
Devontae Smith, only 3 catches, but the good news, a touchdown with the 51 yards. So Devontae Smith, as much as our confidence has been dwindling on him, it's great to see him get in the end zone. That beautiful throw from Jalen Hurts.
Little concerning, only had the 3 targets.
Right.
Dallas got it, is going to miss some time, and so that'll be a narrower target tree for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith now.
Sunday Night Football, Bills-Bengals. Of course, the Bengals continue to have the number of Buffalo here. T. Higgins, monster game, 8 of his 9 targets, 110 yards, while Jamar Chase has a more quiet game.
T. Higgins, also on the love list this week. Also somebody we talked about in Fantasy Football pregame is saying, hey, this is going to be a T. Higgins game. This is somebody who's getting healthy. This is somebody who, in his 4 healthy games, had gotten over 8 targets a game, and that players that had gotten over 8 targets a game against the Bills had scored well. We thought this was coming for T. Higgins. He was too talented for this not to happen here. So, look, since in week 9, he had a 21% target share, played 83% of the snaps, which is great. Since the Bengals had a bye, he's averaging over 15 fantasy points per game. T. Higgins is back to being the T. Higgins you drafted. You're welcome, America.
Joe Burrow looks right.
Joe Burrow, FantasyLife.com investor. It was so tough for me last night. A lot of people want to talk about, winners lose, that kind of stuff. No one's ever given me any credit because, you understand, last night, Josh Allen, FantasyLife.com investor, Joe Burrow, FantasyLife.com investor, and of course Jamar Chase, FantasyLife.com investor. So it's tough for me. my loyalties are split. I was like Donna
Choosing
Kelsey.
between your children. Yeah.
I'm like
Jersey.
Donna Kelsey with the 2 jerseys, just without the publicist or a soup deal. Factually correct, by the way. Donna Kelsey has a publicist. So, all jokes aside, I think T. Higgins is back. Joe Burrow looks awesome. The Bengals look like the awesome. The only thing that's frustrating here is as I've spent like victory lap and back patting myself, my freaking parlay, my DraftKings 3-play parlay that I gave out on Sunday Night Football did not hit. I've been running so cold on this. I've hit 2 legs in every parlay for like a month now.
That's parlays.
That's how Mr. King makes his money.
Yeah.
I understand.
That's why the
of
crown
course.
is his and not yours
I
anymore.
understand. That
Yes.
is true. This is why parlays are at such high odds and it's tough. But my point is like I had Dalton Kincaid over on the receptions. That hit in the first quarter, right? I had Joe Burrow over 1.5 touchdowns. Boom. That was easy, like within the first 3 drives. And then I had Jamar Chase, who's averaged over 117 receiving yards since week 4. I had him over on 88.5 receiving yards. He drops the 60-yarder. Like if Burrow hits him in stride, that's a touchdown and it hits. There's a couple. He got 8 targets. You know what I mean? Like you're telling.
Yeah, the back as well.
And he had 2 bad drops, and Burrow underthrew him on the one. And just anyway, for those of you who tailed me on the DraftKings 3-play, I'm sorry I screwed you up. But I will say Barry's bet, my best bet was the over on Dalton Kincaid's receiving yards.
Easy.
That also crushed.
An easy one there, Jay. He catches 10 of 11 targets for 81 yards. This is now 15-plus fantasy points in 3 straight games for Dalton Kincaid. Some of it, no more Dawson Knox, but also some of it, the Bills are just featuring their first-round pick in this pass-heavy offense.
They are. The 11 personnel helps a ton. It seems like Diggs is getting more attention, so Kincaid. Allen's just looking for him. There's a trust. I hope the trust didn't erode because he had the fumble that effectively cost them
a tough hit.
the game. It was a tough hit. I don't think there's much you can do about that, but, I mean, he's a locked-in, elite starting tight end option.
Well, they're also, by the way, they're not running the ball. They're not running the ball
Never been able to run the
effectively.
ball with Josh Allen.
No, like every route but one. Dalton Kincaid ran a route on every single drop back but one. I mean, so he's just out there a ton. 34% target share. Dalton Kincaid, again, top 6-ish, 7-ish tight end the rest of the way. Their upcoming schedule is nice too. Broncos, Jets, Eagles, bye Kansas City. It's some tough defenses, but all defenses that you can throw that struggle against the tight end. So Kincaid specifically has a nice matchup coming in. James Cook, again, single-digit fantasy points now in 4 of the past 5 games. Since week 5, he's the 34th best running back on a points-per-game basis. Leonard Fournette can't get here soon enough. Like they're just, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's him, whether it's the scheme, whatever it is, they're not running the ball effectively as an offense. They're fairly one-dimensional.
Practice squad Lenny time. All right, moving over to.
By the way, this part's crazy too. The last thing I'll just say, and we'll see how the game plays out tonight between your Jets and the Chargers. But if the playoffs started today, like this moment, Bills are out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's crazy to think about.
The defense is just broken. They've lost too many guys. It's just broken. They had no chance against Burrow last night. They're in trouble. They got a tough schedule as well. I think they have the hardest schedule remaining in football.
They really do. Yeah.
In the game that might be the storyline of the weekend, in hilarious fashion, Vikings-Falcons. Jaron Hall unfortunately gets hurt right down at the goal line early in this game. Yeah, sorry.
I'm not clapping for that.
I kind of set you up for doomsday
why are you
there.
celebrating
To be
the death
clear,
of
I am
Jonah?
not happy about Jaron Hall getting hurt.
Yeah.
I am happy about Josh Dobbs, my guy Josh Dobbs. I've talked about Josh Dobbs a lot on this show. One of my just favorite players in the NFL. In the 7 years that I've been doing interviews of players at the NFLPA Rookie Premiere, Josh Dobbs is one of my top 5 of all time. Like, again, I interviewed 40 to 45 kids every year for 7 years, and Josh Dobbs to this day is one of my all-time favorites. Just an awesome, awesome human being. He comes into this game. He got there a couple of days ago. You guys all know the story. Jaron Hall gets hurt. Again, not applauding that. Very sad about that. That sucks. Feel bad for the kid. His first NFL start. That's brutal. But Josh Dobbs, it opens this up, right? 158 passing yards. He throws 2 passing touchdowns. He runs for 66 yards and runs the touchdown. He did have 2 losses. He did take a safety. But, again, like, he didn't know his guys' names. Like, again, look at this. This is crazy. This is video right now for those of you that are only listening. We have video of Dobbs going through his cadence with the line just before he goes to the game. Like, they're practicing, and he's just like, I don't know the plays. Kevin Seifert was talking about this after the game. covers the Vikings, among other teams for ESPN. Kevin Seifert was talking about the fact that Dobbs was saying, like, yeah, he didn't even know the full names of all the players on his team. Josh Dobbs drinks free, not only today, but, rest of the season. And he would be like, he'd be in the huddle being like, okay, what do I have on my right side with this play?
Yeah, they're
like
the headset.
They're explaining to him, like, okay, here's what's going on here. I'm going to run a go. This guy,
Backyard style.
It literally was backyard style.
It's one of the most incredible games of football I've ever seen, because Dobbs' first 2 drives, he takes a safety, and then he gets strip sack, turnover, deep in his own territory. And then, you mentioned it last week with Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year at 60-1. That's a great call, because I think this guy should be the favorite for this award after what happened yesterday. The fact that he was able to get Dobbs through that game. By the way, they've gone 4-0 with Justin Jefferson on IR. Christian Darrisaw wasn't out there yesterday. Marcus Davenport's on IR. Kirk Cousins is obviously gone. And the stories after the game, Alec Lewis at The Athletic, he did a great job of reporting this, but they were trying to get to the line of scrimmage quicker and go faster with their offense so that Kevin O'Connell would have more time to talk into Josh Dobbs' headset and tell him what he's going to see at the line of scrimmage. Here's what's on your left, Josh. Here's what's on your right. Here's what to expect. Here's what we need to do. And in the NFL, the headset, it goes dead at 15 seconds on the play clock. And so Kevin O'Connell has got from 40 to 15 to tell Josh Dobbs what he's going to see and to win that game against an Atlanta team that, look, Atlanta's not a great team, but they're a real NFL team that's in the mix to win their division.
With a good defense.
A lot of veterans on that defense.
They desperately needed to win that game. And the fact that the Vikings pulled that out, they drove down the field to win it at the end. One of the most incredible wins I've ever seen.
The 4th and 7, I think it was 4th and 7. The 4th and 7 play where Dobbs is like, remind me of? That reminded me of Eli Manning and David Tyree, where you're just like, how did he get out of that? What do you like? Game's over if he goes down in that game, and somehow he spins and he spins and he runs and he somehow gets out of like 3 different tackles, and then he's off to the races, and then he just runs, and it's an unbelievable play. And that the first thing I thought of was Eli Manning and David Tyree in the Super Bowl.
His legs are so strong. He's so athletic. He kind of reminds me of Colin Kaepernick with the upright running style, and also he throws a really crisp ball. He doesn't feel pressure right all the time. He's not a perfect quarterback, clearly, but they're going to be a dangerous team with him the rest of the way.
Saints at Denver, home to Chicago, then a bye, then at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Again,
they can make a run.
Other than the Saints team, and Broncos have been playing better. Give Broncos credit. They've been playing, but my point is even if they're 5-4 now, let's say they split New Orleans and Denver, which I think is very doable, right? So now they're 6-5. Chicago and Vegas, those both should be wins. Now you're at 8-5, and you've got a bye in between, and you've got Jefferson coming back again. Yep. Thank you very much, Kevin O'Connell. He's probably no longer 60-1 on. We'll see when we do our.
He's still 25-1, and he should be close to the favorite. Honestly.
Yeah, honestly, but it's a great story because Josh Dobbs is truly one of the good guys in the NFL, and you've heard that. I'm telling you that, but you've heard that from teammates, all the teams he's played for, coaches, everyone that. If you've met Josh Dobbs, you're like, I get it. He is that dude. He's just an awesome human being, and it's a great story for him. And I think what's exciting, just to spin this forward very quickly for fantasy, if you have T.J. Hawkinson, if you have Jordan Addison, you are excited about this. And honestly, you were excited to an extent about Alexander Mattison because we're going to get here to our injuries in a second. But Cam Akers, unfortunately, this one looked bad for Cam Akers. So you would expect Mattison to get more of the workload in what should be a better offense moving forward. And then when you get Jefferson back, you feel good about that because I think there's a lot more reason and optimism that Jefferson will be back sooner rather than later now that Dobbs has them headed towards the playoffs.
Yep. Last one on this game, Connor. Bijan Robinson, 11 carries for 52 yards. Tyler Algier gets all the work down the end. Do you think it's ever going to change for Bijan, or is this just the offense that's going to be 50-50?
There's just no I think this is it right now. Arthur Smith is the most stubborn man the NFL has seen in quite some time, and this is what he does with top 10 picks, honestly.
He was asked about it after the game, and he just talked about, we're running the hot hand, everything like that. Tyler Algier's averaging under 4 yards a carry, and I get it. Bijan Robinson had a bad fumble. I hear you. But I put this on Twitter, and it's very simple. I could spend the next 20 minutes bashing Arthur Smith. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say this. It is very simple. It is one of two things. Either Bijan Robinson isn't the best player in your locker room at the running back position, and if he's not one of the best players on offense that you have on the team, then it is a massive, massive miscalculation of draft capital. You used a top 8 overall pick on a running back in a league where running backs are fairly devalued. So for you to use a top 8 pick on a running back, you have to believe he is truly special. And I think most people that watch football believe Bijan Robinson is truly special. But if you guys don't think he's truly special, then it's a massive miscalculation with draft capital. And if you do agree with the rest of us that he is truly special, then it's a massive miscalculation on your coaching. And I understand Taylor Heineke also had some picks as well. But you know what? One of the reasons why the Falcons lost that game is they didn't have their best players on the field at all times. I'm sorry.
It's a pattern.
It's it makes no sense whatsoever. And this isn't a fantasy discussion. And Arthur Smith can be like, oh, boo-hoo, you little fantasy guys. Sorry, we blew up your parlay or whatever. It's not that, man. It's an NFL thing.
They lost.
You guys lost a game that you needed to win against a guy that had been there less than 3 days. Yeah. Less than 3 days. You somehow lost that game. He turned the ball over twice.
Yeah.
He gave you a safety. He's been there less than 3 days.
It's unbelievable.
You guys are supposedly a playoff team.
Go Falcons.
And you played against a 5th-round rookie and then his backup who had literally been there less than 3 days.
Yep.
And you did it. One of the reasons you did it is because you had your best players on the bench. And again, if they're not your best players, then I don't know what you're doing in the NFL draft. There's a massive screw-up somewhere in the organization, whether it was at the draft or currently on the sidelines.
Agreed.
All right.
I feel bad for Falcons fans. We like
too.
Falcons fans. Like, I like to give Lawrence grief, but Lawrence is one of our buddies. We love Lawrence. And don't tell Lawrence that. We like to give him grief. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, in all seriousness, it's like, my friends that are Falcons fans, I feel so terrible for. Like, it's so frustrating.
Our last game, Seahawks
Sorry,
at Baltimore.
Steven. I think we're over on time.
It's all right. We're already off the air. Show's over.
Yeah, the show's over. We're just going to keep doing this anyway. The Ravens look like an absolute wagon right now, Jay, and the crazy part is they don't even need an insane performance from Lamar Jackson to do that. He's efficient, 21-26, 187 yards. He adds in the 60 yards rushing. But this is a team that can run the ball and play defense as well.
I think the story was Keaton Mitchell, who goes 9 for 138 in the touchdown, champion of Michael Smith's, Matthew, and he's now an interesting piece in this offense. It's just amazing this team can be on cruise control and can beat a playoff team 37-3.
Yeah, it's so funny, though, because, you know, Lamar Jackson plays very efficiently. Ravens put up 30 points, and then you're looking like he's like QB 17.
Yeah,
like it's single-digit fantasy points once again for Lamar Jackson. As we head into Monday Night Football, he's the 17th best quarterback in fantasy. Like, he's QB 17. He's had back-to-back games now with under 12 fantasy points. He's been below 18 points in 4 of the past 5, which is not what you drafted Lamar Jackson to be. It's 4th game this year without a touchdown passes. He had only 3 such games. He's only had 3 games this year with multiple touchdown passes. And he put something on Instagram like, fantasy players are mad at me or something like that. I'm sorry, which is a nice nod and fun of Lamar, but it doesn't change the fact that we're getting no production from one of the best players in the NFL.
Their schedule is brutal the rest of the way. He's going to start throwing more.
Yeah,
I hope
got
so.
The Browns coming up as well.
I hope so. Last thing here, very quickly on this game, is Keaton Mitchell had a very 9 for 138 and a touchdown. Most of it came in the second half, but he had 4 touches in the first half. Same number as Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. We'll get more into Keaton Mitchell tomorrow on waivers, but I think that this was notable. This is somebody that we've been talking a lot about as kind of a stash, and it was nice to see sort of a coming out party, even though the big run came when the game was out of hand. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.